let's get into the action. JacKyomu versus YRebellion. Go ahead and start off. We have YRebellion going to go first here. Well, it looks like we have a mulligan coming down from JacKyomu.
Yeah, that's a mulligan for 2 Frost Spirits. Kind of gives us a little insight in potentially what he's playing. 2 Frost. It could be Cryoling stuff, which they love to mulligan. Don't mind it. Could be BlueStacks. Could be some other spicy tech for Frost. More Frost even. Generally, those first 2 spirits that a caster might mulligan are usually what they have the most plentiful of, or the easiest time to recover.
Yeah, we saw Prime earlier kind of teching like the Morfrost package into like a water low to the ground strategy. So maybe Jack is on something similar, but hopefully this hand is satisfactory. We don't see it expend too much, because if it is a deck like Blizz, then maybe that gets a little bit low. YRebellion coming down. Snark! Oh, Snark, my goat! Whoa!
So what are they searching with Snark? Rock in a hard place?
And it looks like that's a Dracking.
That's a Dracking, yeah, because that is a Dracking. So we are finally seeing Dracking show up in the top cut. Let's go.
Way.
Shout out to my Lunar casters.
That's right. Yeah, it all comes back to the Elestrals. You know, we have a Snark in the top cut too. This is a first of all first. I love this idea too. I've been trying to cook with the Snark deck recently, and one thing that someone pointed out, they're like, Drakking's a pretty good Ascension, and I'm like, you know what? But I'm scared of Galaxy. YRebellion is not scared.
Not at all. And it's interesting because Snark does have really good search targets, but a matter of what you do with it. It's going to see Jack play a Narpoon, properly enchanted. It's going to potentially search. This could be more Frost. Could be for BlueStacks. Could be both.
Yeah, kind of wait and see what they search out. It's going into the deck here. We've got careful decision to make. This could be determinative. It's an Frostix, I think.
With nothing left in the underworld right now, so that leads me to believe this is going to be like, I don't even know. Like, it could be BlueStacks. I mean, but you don't do anything yet, so that means they already have what they want in their hand. Why wouldn't they just play that first? Unless they're kind of trying to slow this down and get more information from Y before they go for like any BlueStacks or more Frost combos.
Yeah, I think the idea here is that you are trying to bait out some back row from YRebellion before committing to those big plays like a Snowlit, which like, you know, maybe like a Moralith, for example. You don't want to have that go to Tsunami and then, you know, be touched by that Dracking, because a Dracking taking that Moralith could be crazy.
Or even Jack has no back row right now. He could be being like, I need to play something in water to avoid Tsunami and have the best chance of outing that Snark. That could turn into a Dracking next turn, and all of a sudden I have no back row against a Dracking.
Absolutely. And I will say, too, this is actually into YRebellion's favor. The no back row from JacKyomu is a little bit scary, but because it typically means you have a much larger and much stronger Elestrals pool. And there is El Diablo themselves, the Snowlit, coming down.
About to eat a Gorgons. Now, not the end of the world here, because if Jack has any way to either cast an Invoke or play another card, he could just get that Snowlit back within Frostix next turn. Whether he ascends or whether he plays like an Ambrosia here or something. Like, there's a lot of shenanigans you can pull now that we know that he has Frostix in hand.
Yeah, I kind of like the idea here of not allowing these mills because, you know, God forbid they're on a Cedar Soar and that sleet is just raining down like a truck, slamming on its brakes, and we have the Snowlit going to be sitting there just for a little bit, staring at YRebellion as it passes back, taking 1 damage into an Eddy. And Eddy's going to go uncontested. Now, like you said, that Frostix can come back and threaten this Snowlit that is going to be turned into defense. Yeah, that was a really good pickup from Jack earlier, that search off the Narpoon.
Yeah, so it leads me to believe he just has everything he wants in his hand besides... So he had the Snowlit, obviously. If he's doing the Morphoros package, he might already have a Lycan. So that Narpoon just said, hey, I'm going to find something for contingency later and let me get over this guy through a potential Tsunami.
Yep, and there's the Frostix coming down, paying those 2 Frost Spirits to get back once again from the underworld themselves. Sorry, Dimax, it's El Diablo. El Diablo coming in here, a little Snowlit, going to be able to activate its ability to mill 3. We got another Frostix, another Snowlit Hurricane?
Hurricane, yep. Hurricane Gorgons, Snowlit. Not what you want to see out of Jack. Obviously, he's struggling on back row. He just lost his Gorgons, and BlueStacks notoriously plays pretty light on back row already. So that's just another one out of the picture, something that YRebellion might be able to take advantage of later.
Oh, and there's the Morlith coming down. That Draken was looking nice and killer. If we see a Tsunami here, this could be insane. But that Narpoon is a nice offensive threat, even if a Tsunami is coming in.
For sure. It allows him to definitely just trade through the Eddy and, again, keep that Draken off the board. Looks like there's an Astral PTA Avalanche.
Yeah, talk about an avalanche. This Frost Elestral coming down for Aspral. This is what Blizz wants to do. Look at the full power of this gamble.
The Aspral effect here. Again, hitting all of his back row, a Rise from another Aspral. Not what Jack wants to see, but he does have a pretty large board here that is pretty scary if you're YRebellion.
Yeah, I think that this is partially why Jack has made it this far into a game like this. You have a Tsunami coming down.
Now, and that is shield here for that Narpoon.
Yeah, no back row from Jack. We might see, and that's a shield. That's absolutely correct. Wow, this Draken is about to wreak havoc on this board.
Right now, if you're YRebellion, what do you choose to take? Probably the Aspral, right? Just to get the extra stats?
Absolutely. You go the extra stats, you enchant it for 2, you hit over the Morlith, you clear this board. We are back in it for YRebellion. Exciting stuff.
Yeah, this Draken is about to just swing for a ton. Basically, he's going to have 2 Drakens effectively in play stat-wise between knocking down an Aspral and taking it and plopping it right back into play on his board.
Yeah, and what's crazy too is that Jack is down to about 9 spirits here, it looks like, and YRebellion on 11. So the spirit differential is not crazy, but you're trading board presence here, and if you're BlueStacks, you can get back into this, but that takes a little bit of an if. It takes a Cedar Sword, it takes a BlueStacks itself.
Yeah, we see YRebellion really thinking here, so they might have some other interesting plays to make. Because it almost seems like, well, you just slap the Draken down and go, but...
Oh, but there's the Laurels, resting on your Laurels coming in. Honestly, you love to see the removal here. Takes out one of the weaker cards, and you can swing in for a little bit of damage here, putting Jack on 7 spirits even. Maybe that's what the confirmation and calculation is here.
Yeah, and that will definitely make a struggle where if Jack replays that Narpoon, gets in, and Frostix tries to go for the milk combos again, he's going to run out of spirits too quick to really make a comeback then.
Oh, backed up by a back row too. Look at this absolute clinic here from the King. Draken coming down, taking out the Aspral and activating the special ability of the Draken, allowing you to kind of yoink that Elestral out and cast it with Water or Lunar.
Yeah, so it's a Water Aspral now on YRebellion side of the board. It's going to punch for another 2 damage, leaving him in with 2 Water Enchanted 7 attackers on board. So Tsunami's not going to do it. We already saw Jack lose a ton of back row to his own mills, and he hasn't played a back row yet this game, which means his hand might be a little bit too heavy on Elestrals or Invoke Runes.
Yeah, this is just something that we saw all the mills from Jack getting rid of those counter runes. You kind of hope to see maybe a Catarant to stop the bleeding. You got a couple Ambrosias in the grip. Kind of deliberating on what spirits to expend here. If you expend the wrong spirits here, it could be game. Maybe potentially saying there's the Hurricane spirits. Effectively, it's a Lycaris, a Thunder, and a Water for a little bit of damage. Maybe due to some miscalculation. I think they didn't know they only took 2 damage there. Thinking like that Water Leviathan spirit there, and drawing for turn, leaving them on 6 spirits left in deck with no board presence. This is a hairy situation. Yeah,
Jack needs to either get really lucky here or have some really good outs to this board. Maybe a Royal of his own, Ambrosias or Catarants, and another Frostix to just get lucky. There's definitely ways for Jack to get out of this, but they are few and far between with what we normally see out of a BlueStacks deck.
Yeah, really impressive stuff from YRebellion, by the way, too. Kind of like you said earlier, is that Narpoon was kind of the key there that YRebellion had to crack. And so if YRebellion was able to remove that Narpoon, knowing that they were going to be able to contest all of YRebellion's stuff, once that's gone, now you think to yourself, wow, now we're just so back in it after effectively playing possum, when you think about it. Just kind of biding your time for your resources. Jackson expended draw.
Expended draw. That's rough.
And I think it's a scoop.
Scoop right after. Yep.
And as we're going into game 2 here, Jack and YRebellion, excellent game 1. That was exciting.
Looks like he's about to cast something. Yep.
Oh, El Diablo going for the Snowlit here. Gonna come over and stare at you like this for a Blizz, a Harpoon, and a Rise. Interesting.
Those are generally two cards you don't want to see milled together, being the Blizz and the Rise, because ideally you'd want to get the Rise to get the Blizztrix out. But
yeah, it's difficult, right? Because I think in this position, unless Jack has a Rise in hand, that can immediately threaten whatever comes next from YRebellion as an Astrabbit hits the board. The first one of top 8. Everyone say yippee. And as you could go out with that big bird next turn potentially, but that's going to be a big if. Like you said, the lower chances now of Jack having one in the grip.
Yeah, there's also a chance that Jack either ascends this Snowlet to a Morlith or just ascends into an Aspral, or even just re-enchants, because it's probably sticking on board if it's just an Astrabbit in defense. Because what would YRebellion potentially hit this with? Just Earthquake? So that Snowlet's going to get a second shot at the very least to hopefully ascend for Jack's case.
Ooh, and here we go for a pass back to Jack with 2-set back row. Dangerous position if you're YRebellion, especially this early, considering that this deck for JacKyomu, that could be a pro set Hurricane. And because we've seen the spirits now being expended for it on the last game, and devastatingly take out. And there it is, speak into existence, the Hurricane heavy.
See if YRebellion has any chains here. Potentially he could Gorgons that Snowlet ahead of time, but he's gonna, looks like it's Tsunami and a Gorgons got eaten by the Hurricane from the looks.
Yeah, I wonder why you don't just Gorgons the Snowlet here. I mean, you maybe it's the spirits are a little bit expensive, or I'm not quite sure, but we're gonna see. Oh, there's the Morlith coming down now because you have the Blizztrix inside the Underworld. Great heads up play here. You're gonna mill an Aspral. There's the Aspral.
Yeah,
the Blizz.
And a Blizz, so he's not only gonna be able to get the Aspral, but yeah, Gorgon's chain to that Hurricane could have stopped this Aspral ascension. Now it's very unlikely this Aspral could convert into a Blizztrix unless Jack has a very lucky time finding the third Blizztrix, but still, it's a play that helps push even more damage into YRebellion, which what Blizztrix wants to do, just get these 2 drops on board really quick, punch through a little bit of defense, and just hit for damage as fast as possible.
With no back row, that's going to be really easy to do. And again, this leads back to that Gorgon's play. Why not just stop the Ascension from the Aspral? Because then at that point, you are now wasting, you have 2 Blizz and an Aspral inside of the Underworld that JacKyomu probably can't convert this as easily, but wow, this is a commanding position, especially with 1 back row from Jack. We're kind of getting a reverse of last game here, unless YRebellion can clean it up with like resting in an Earthquake or resting in a rock in a hard place.
Yeah, efficient removal is definitely key right now, and very much so in Blizztrix in general because of how much pressure and big bodies they get on board so quickly. The general immunity to things like Cryoblast, which are the normal outs for a lot of things, just makes it a lot more difficult to break the board for some decks. Looks like Y is just going to take expend a draw here, probably looking for those outs we just talked about, or maybe more back row just to stem the flow until he can just actually drop something like Draking again, or just other maybe potential threats in the deck.
Yeah, I get the Caster's Curse coming in, and speaking of that Hurricane existence, there's an Earthquake. Okay, that's one. That's a good step forward for YRebellion. If we can see a clear here for this Morlith, we might be able to see some action back. I like the idea of kind of maybe taking it slow with that expended draw, but one really big thing that Blizztrix can do better than most of the decks is capitalize on an open board and just put the pressure on. All right, second pro set Hurricane, Jack, you're a legend. There's no way. The 2 set cards are not long.
Yeah, there's a chance here that Jack just drops another Morlith and hits like 2 Cedars and all of a sudden represents 8 damage, and that would just put YRebellion on a really difficult footing.
Yeah, this is I think they're counting spirits and doing some confirmations here.
Yeah, it's just the uncertainty of what Blizztrix decks generally run.
Blizzard coming in. Like you mentioned, Blizzard maybe back in style, and it looks so good here from Jack. Gonna go ahead and take out one of the back row. They cannot respond to it. So unlike the Hurricane, they don't get a chance to get this card. But let's see what they take. Targeting that one, gonna take out, and I believe that's a hard to tell. Maybe it's was that a bluff, maybe? Hurricane, maybe? Yeah, it looks like maybe a bluff Hurricane.
We're going to hard ascend into a Blizztrix.
Yep, looks like that was a...
So that means 2 got milled, and the 3rd he drew. That's generally not what you want to see as a Blizztrix player, but in this case, it actually works out big for Jack, having the 3rd in hand.
Yeah, this is really funny because it's like we were just talking about, like, what are the odds and the likely chances that the BlizzTrick touches down here? Jax has no problem converting into that, and this game is looking quite in favor of Jack, even though the spirit count is a little low on Jack's side. If you're YRebellion here, honestly, if you didn't already have Laurels and you were holding that Laurels, this is a pretty good target for it. As Jack gets lower and lower spirits and kind of takes away resources from the underworld back, YRebellion's got to make some magic here. If that Hurricane back there got blown up, pretty decent trade. You might just take that and a Shield of Achilles. Oh, no.
It looks like Jack just shuffled back a Blistrix, Morlith, and the Snowlit back into the deck. So he left one Blistrix in Underworld. He might have a Rise play coming down the future, or at least is prepping for, like, hey, if I get a Rise, I can have another Blistrix down there. But still, that Blistrix can be able to almost for free pop a card every turn. So YRebellion's going to have to get a decent board presence going very quickly to deal with this Blistrix, or he's going to just get run over very quick.
Yeah, this is one of those games I can already tell is going to go down to the absolute wire. It's going to be these two casters already on such even footing here, but both are going to have to, well, Blizztrix side is going to, if this board gets cracked, then it's going to have to expend more spirits to get back into it, and YRebellion equally is going to have to expend a lot of spirits to get rid of this Blizztrix, and a Sluggle trying to stop the bleeding. Pretty good. You can hope for a little bit of time here.
Yeah, that Sluggle, what happens here is like Jack could potentially just shuffle around 3 Elestrals into his deck, pop the Sluggle, hit for the damage that Sluggle just basically healed back. So it's not quite what you want to see with YRebellion, but it does at least mean that it stems the bleeding a little bit, so it's not like he's getting hit on an open board. His opponent's got to do something to clear it a little bit first, but yeah. It's curious, like, YRebellion needs to, we've seen DraftKings, he needs to stick something if he's playing Ascensions, and he's not going to be able to stick anything while this Blizztrix is online.
Yeah, it's really interesting, too, because I like the idea here that, now presenting Jack the option to destroy the back row or the Sluggle, and can definitely just do both, unless this is a Gorgons or something. But this is, I'm going to go for the Blizztrix effect here. This is a very difficult position for YRebellion regardless, and buying time for Laurels is about what you're playing your out to here. A rock and a hard place, I guess, that is too, given that Jack has a back row. Kind of hard to see with the red sleeves here, a slight competitive advantage for the colorblind.
The bluff set Ambro, which somehow saved YRebellion more spirits than it probably would have recovered, because the Blizztrix had to kind of say, well, in case it's a shield, I need to pop that, but now it needs to find a way to run over the Sluggle, so if Jack doesn't have another Lush to hit the Sluggle with, which it looks like he will.
Oh, it's a Tadflow, a misenchanted Tadflow?
I think that's a misenchanted Tadflow. So that allows Jack to get in for 1 damage. Again, that bluff set Ambrosia just saved like 3 spirits, which would have been more relevant than actually casting that Ambrosia, it would seem.
Yeah, I love this play. This is so funny. And the classic Lunar aggro player in me, I see a Tadful like that. I see, okay, let me get rid of that back row. Go Nabi to decrease Blizztrix. Go in, bring back Doppelgator, and then Blizztrix gets down again, potentially within range of that Doppelgator. And it's just so funny to me. YRebellion doesn't really have that kind of explosive option to take care of wide boards like we've been seeing all day, but instead has to have a pretty good combination of cards like an Atlantis and a Rise from and an Ascension that all kind of take care of this board.
Yeah, it's not that there's no options, but the options are definitely few and far between now for YRebellion's side, as I kind of said for Jack for last game. But, I mean, Jack's going to run out of Elestrals in his Underworld at this point, unless he can find another way to start milling. So I don't think he has another Blizztrix activation in the tank, so if YRebellion can set some back row here and actually deal with this Blizztrix this turn, maybe it's smart time to set shield. But that Tadflow is a little interesting as a water enchant, because that could lead to a bunch of weird things.
Ooh, you're coming out with a Mustation here, a mustachioed crab coming down. Just put a little bit of defenses here, making sure that you have to attack with Blizztrix, and that the Tadflow will only be getting for 1 damage again, buying your time for stuff. This Blizztrix, and also one accomplishment of this Tadflow is to make it now Laurels proof, unless you can deal with the Tadflow. Jack is sitting here thinking maybe about PTA potentially to kind of get rid of this this crab. both players thinking pretty hard here. Jack is deliberating on if this is worth it. I think if you're Jack, this is a no-brainer. You take care of the defense Elestral.
Yeah, and then you can start pushing a lot more damage in. But
looks like it's passed back.
Going for a cast. Properly enchanted Tadpole. Interesting.
We're talking about it.
That Tadpole could turn into a Moralith, could turn into an Asprowl.
Spend to ascend.
Moralith. There's the Moralith.
Ooh.
Which could turn into a Cedar.
Cedar here would be killer.
Oh! There it is. Yeah.
Oh,
this is where Jack can push in a lot of damage and a lot of pressure if he wants to. Now he's starting to get a little bit low on Spirits with this Cedar cast, so that could be something weighing on him a little bit.
This is not looking good for YRebellion. You hit over that with Blister, or you don't even have to hit over. You just go for BlueStacks effect, pop, and then deal at probably the remainder of Spirit damage. YRebellion, please tell me you're running Eruption. Tell me you have something here.
That would go crazy here. I highly doubt it. That would go crazy. I mean, Jack's at 4. I still don't think he has enough Elestrals in his Underworld. I think he's at 2 Elestrals in his Underworld, so he can't use the BlueStacks effect still. It is somewhat relevant. It's going to go for attacks.
Okay, there we go.
Going for 5, putting Y at 7. Now we've seen some healing cards like Slug out of YRebellion, so it's not necessarily like he's at a proper 7. He might be able to heal back up, or it's going to 6 actually, it looks like.
All right, hear me out. Jump scare Arcolith into killing this Tadflow, into winning the game. That's the only way you can do it.
Arcolith, Zeus, circle the sky.
That's right. Yeah, you gotta really go big or go home here.
Oh,
and it looks like YRebellion's gonna scoop.
Yep, he's scooping. So we're gonna go into a game 3. Jack taking it back up.
I think as we're going into this game 3 now of the first top 8, Jack versus YRebellion. Jack, your mills are crazy so far. I don't know how to put it. You're insane.
Yeah, it went from like horrifying mills in that first game to like pretty solid second, just to close it out there. So
pretty decent. Yeah, pretty decent.
Kind of the coin flip of what BlueStacks can do. Sometimes you just can't get there.
Yep, got a mill from YRebellion, or sorry, a mulligan from YRebellion here. Gonna go ahead and expend a Frost and a Water Spirit. You don't really need that Frost Spirit there unless you're assuming that Jack's on Cryoblast, but YRebellion feeling pretty comfortable there, taking those 2 and trying to draw a better hand.
Yeah, at the same time, we do know that Y is playing Sluggle, so maybe the double water might be another option to take. But yeah, if you're playing Cryoblast into BlueStacks and you don't side Spirits, there's no reason to keep the Frost Spirit in your Spirit deck for sure.
Yeah, I'm curious to know here if we get a double expend. You know, Water is one of those decks, like you said, with the Sluggles and potentially Chautauquas even. You know, a lot of healing available at the disposal of YRebellion, and you know, we don't really want to see typically as casters a double or even triple mulligan to get down in Spirits low, but maybe that's the difference in play, is that you just do that. But it looks like we're going to take the 1, start off with the Whale here inside of game 3 for top 8. That 1 card and potentially pass back to JacKyomu here. Try not to get Hurricane out of their mind.
Yeah, the Hurricane could be devastating, especially now that he's going first. YRebellion can set first, and then Jack can just go, okay, cool, Hurricane, and then set. Which is definitely something that can help that play.
Harpoon in attack position, potentially an answer to this Whale, but I like this play here. You know, we saw that Harpoon was able to stick around because Tsunami was a pretty big killer inside of that game 1. And I like Harpoon here for a few different reasons, grabbing the Snowlet, El Diablo, but potentially meaning that, you know, we're talking about information based off searching the Enfrostics the first game. Searching the Snowlet here either means that their hand already has some other pieces, or that they really just need another Elestral to get their start going. Set 1 from JacKyomu, passing back.
Yeah, it's going to let YRebellion potentially get over this Harpoon, because even if Jack's had Cryoblast here, still would end up just trading with the Galaxy after all the stat swaps are going through, so not as relevant as when he played the first Harpoon game 1 into a potential Tsunami. Still, again, and also YRebellion having board presence is good for those Ascensions. We know he's playing Draking, could be playing other Ascensions. Jack doesn't want to let YRebellion have board save the majority of the time. There's the Sluggle we mentioned earlier when we were talking about the Mulligans.
And there we go. You know, go ahead and heal back that 1 Water Spirit. You might as well. Now we're at a pretty comfortable Spirit differential. You know, 2 is not a lot of Spirit difference in a lot of these matchups, but it starts to add up quickly with like counter runes. Gonna go ahead and go for the whale after setting a card to crack that Narpoon, and the Sluggle potentially to hit for face for 1. And that Spirit Deck's gonna take a damage here. Expended from Jack, probably a Frost Spirit if I had to guess, but that's right. You know, sometimes whenever you have that those Hurricane Spirits, they're sitting dead in your Spirit Deck, but yeah, you gotta hold on to them. And once again, Pro Set Hurricane here would be absolutely killer. We do see, once again,
there it is.
There is the Hurricane. Bring out the storm.
There's nothing that Y might want to chain here this time. Looks like he got knocked out another Gorgons. Unsure what that second card that he had set face down was. Jack might just go for the Snow play here. We know it's in his hand. See what he tries to get through. He can also potentially play a Moralith now.
Yeah, that was absolutely killer. Once again, you get caught by that set. Ooh, a pretty decent. You get the Rise from the Shield and the Moralith here. Maybe a Rise from the Moralith is expensive, but might be enough to get you to crack this board. Snowlet is still not big enough to handle the whale. That was a devastating.
A Cryoblast with a Snowlet would get over the whale. So I'm curious if Jack is running the Cryoblast after seeing what Y was doing with a lot of the water stuff in general. He might not have put it in. He might have taken it out. Ooh, gonna see
there's
a
the
Rise
Rise from. Gonna bring back that Moralith, potentially going for some mills here. And man, that is killer. You're going down a lot of spirits now if you're Jack, but once again, this is where BlueStacks likes to live. At 2 spirits left and 17 Elestrals on board.
Oh, there's BlueStacks. There's BlueStacks. There's the Moralith.
Ooh,
nothing quite there. We always see 1 Rise in the Underworld, so that might just be 2 offline BlueStacks the rest of this game, unless Jack has another 3rd BlueStacks in hand for next turn.
Yeah, but this is a clear board. Wow, we were just talking about how the whale might stick around, but we are back in it. Moralith was really showing to be a powerhouse force in this tournament in the few times we've seen it. You know, Moralith being Rise from is kind of risky. There's the whale again. There it is. Back in action here. 1 Gorgons would be probably the game.
It looks like just whale, slap down, go for Snowlet. It's going to get Battle Step Gorgons.
I have to stop talking. Hurricane, Gorgons, the Caster's Curse, truly. YRebellion up a lot of spirits here, but once again, this is where BlueStacks likes to live. Right here, just putting a bunch of pressure on.
Yeah, but at 7, Jack's going to be pretty, struggling to figure out exactly how he's going to play these turns out, because if he goes for Aspral, he's not going to be able to mill anything. The costs are going to be really impactful right now, the cards that Frost generally plays, with how expensive Frost plays.
Expend a draw out from Jack here. Potentially maybe looking for an Frostix line. That'd be kind of interesting. I'm not quite sure if I saw any 1-drops inside of the Underworld, but going to go ahead and set 1 once again and swing in. I like Jack's set 1s here because we can kind of see the 50-50 of, is it live, is it not live? And I think that's the mind game playing around the Hurricane stuff, is that, you know, Jack only setting 1 card per turn is putting YRebellion on edge.
Yeah, we know that Jack also plays a pretty significant suite of counter runes, even for a BlueStacks player. We've seen the PTAs, we've seen the Shields build, we've seen the Gorgons build, so he is playing relevant back row and a decent chunk of it.
Yeah, Rabbit coming down from YRebellion that can stop a little bit of the bleeding. We have a hard decision here. I imagine if it's just removal, you take it and you try to out this Moralith. Jack with a ton of cards in hands, though, and YRebellion setting 1, passing back to JacKyomu. Go ahead and maybe another draw plays is open.
Yeah, the Astro plays, it's good for YRebellion just to try to get a little bit more things going, but it's just potentially going to be another run over by the Moralith. It's definitely tight, but YRebellion has at least a little bit of time to work with, given the spirit differential going on right now.
Yeah, we've seen it done before. This is kind of the, in theory, talking to Justin T, previous champion of the last 2 tournaments, talking about Arcolith. And I'm not quite sure if YRebellion's taking Arcolith after this, but the idea is that a 1 random Arcolith into a BlueStacks, so they put themselves so low that you can just hit over their Snowlet or their Narpoon if they keep it on the board. And it looks like here we have a 2-drop for another Moralith, which putting some pressure in. They definitely have more Elestrals in their Underworld. after the couple mills. This is, man, Morlith is a crazy card to be dropping here. So much pressure. Let's see if the Astral hits. We have, there it is. The last one. I'll just stop. I'll just stop saying things here at this point. That is devastating for YRebellion.
The board again, Jack going pretty low. We're gonna have to wait for those eruptions to come out.
True. You know, random tech eruption. You know, maybe the hard pivot into Krakatsuga burn. But an Astral 7 body might just be enough here. Gonna go ahead and take 4 damage. 8 spirits to 3 spirits on JacKyomu and YRebellion. Down to the last game 3. This is nail biting.
Yeah, Y is gonna need to pull something out. Like, I mean, we've seen Sluggles. Maybe there's Foamies that can stall out. Like a Foamy Wall would stall for a turn, potentially get to an Ascension, but you still need to have a Draking in hand then. Y really needs to just find whatever pieces that can get him to a big body, and the Draking would still just crash the Astral, so we wouldn't be able to clear board. It's tough.
Yeah, the back row too could definitely be real for JacKyomu. You know, the back row, you have enough for shield, you have enough for Gorgons, you have enough for PTA to pay off one of your Elestrals, and it's looking pretty close. You know, it's an expend to draw from YRebellion, trying to find the removal. 7 spirits left. Potentially passing back to Jack. Oh,
Jack represents lethal here with just a single enchant. That's going to be tight. So that back row needs to be what exactly Tsunami?
Yep, absolutely. Which I think, if we're reading the right call, it is. If Jack has saved a water spirit, then that would be very interesting here. Pick out the spirit deck, flipping it over. What do we got? What do you see? Narpoon with Frost.
Narpoon with Frost. Again, that's Tsunami will go so big here.
Swinging in. YRebellion taking the damage.
Oh, it looks like it's game.
Yeah, that's going to be game.
Unfortunate.
For JacKyomu, taking the first top 8 here inside of the this Premier Tournament.